Hi, and in our message today, this is for May the 29th, we'll be looking again at the third in particular of the three stories Jesus told as we find them in Luke chapter 15. We're not going to be reading anything from Luke 15. So if you want to recap on that or hear those stories for the first time if you don't know them, then do feel free to use our readings from last week, which will bring them to you. Also, by the way, the third of the stories, the one that really matters, last week was recorded as part of the message, not part of the separate readings video. We have three readings this week, other than those from Luke chapter 15. The first one comes from Luke chapter 4 and concerns Jesus' visit to his home church, so to speak, the synagogue in his hometown. And he quotes the prophet Isaiah and seems to be declaring who he is. I'm suggesting that, bearing in mind everything else he said and did, we could hear this as an invitation into doing with Jesus what Jesus really loves to do. Luke chapter 4, verse 17. The scroll of the prophet Isaiah was handed to Jesus. Unrolling it, he found the place where it is written, "The Spirit of the Lord is on me, because he has anointed me to preach good news to the poor. He has sent me to proclaim freedom for the prisoners and recovery of sight for the blind, to release the oppressed, to proclaim the year of the Lord's favour." Then he rolled up the scroll, gave it back to the attendant, and sat down. The eyes of everyone in the synagogue were fastened on him, and he began by saying to them, "Today, this scripture is fulfilled in your hearing." In Luke chapter 10 at verse 38, we have a little incident from the life of Jesus, and it concerns two siblings, Martha and Mary. And I wonder if you might see, as I see, some little parallels between these two sisters with the two brothers of the story of the overgracious dad, Jesus' big parable from Luke chapter 15. Anyway, for what it can show us and make us contemplate, let's read Luke chapter 10 from verse 38. As Jesus and his disciples were on their way, he came to a village where a woman named Martha opened her home to him. She had a sister called Mary, who sat at the Lord's feet, listening to what he said. But Martha was distracted by all the preparations that had to be made. She came to him and asked, "Lord, don't you care that my sister has left me to do the work by myself? Tell her to help me." "Martha, Martha," the Lord answered, "you are worried and upset about many things, but only one thing is needed. Mary has chosen what is better, and it will not be taken away from her." That leaves some tensions in our minds, maybe, about fairness. Was it fair, given their culture where the two women would do the serving and the preparation, and only men would sit at the feet of a rabbi to do the thinking and the listening and the acting that would follow? Given the culture, there's a certain fairness in what Martha's asking for, isn't there? Jesus seems constantly to introduce tension where we might expect him to resolve it, and to leave little things hanging in the air, questions, unresolved feelings. Anyway, that's certainly the case in the great parables of Luke chapter 15, and especially the third, the parable of the overgracious dad. During the message, I want to mention something called atonement, and that's a word we have, it's drawn from the Old Testament actually, which refers to how God covers over, or resolves if you like, takes out of his sight if you want, removes from his awareness even, the things that we've done wrong and our character defects, etc. It's all about the cross. So I thought we'd just have this reading from Hebrews chapter 12, just the first two verses. Since we are surrounded by such a great cloud of witnesses, let us throw off everything that hinders and the sin that so easily entangles, and let us run with perseverance the race marked out for us. Let us fix our eyes on Jesus, the author and perfecter of our faith, who for the joy set before him endured the cross, scorning its shame, and sat down at the right hand of the throne of God. I want us to just notice, for the joy set before him. It's one of the reasons that the scriptures give for why Jesus was willing to die for us. God bless you, and I hope you'll join me in the video for the message.